Bilingual Book Buddies. Bilingual Book Buddies is dedicated to promoting bilingual books for children and sharing insights from authors, illustrators, editors, agents, and anyone involved in bringing these stories to life. I'm Claudia Sloan. I'm one of 3 co-hosts of Bilingual Book Buddies. I'm an artist who also writes and illustrates books for children. I have 3 books of my own published, and one of them was a collaboration with the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury professional basketball teams. And signed copies are available exclusively at my website. And now let's welcome my co-hosts Silvia Lopez and Alicia Salazar. Bienvenidas las dos. Each will tell us a little bit about herself, and then we'll introduce today's special guest. Silvia, adelante, por favor.
I'm Silvia Lopez. I'm a Cuban-American author living in Miami, Florida. I was a school librarian for many, many years, and then I finally decided to turn my love of books and children into books for children. I have about 20 books published, with 2 more coming out this year in the summer and 2 more in 2027.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Salazar, children's book author and one of your hosts here on Bilingual Book Buddies. I write stories for kids because I believe books have the power to help children see themselves, understand others, and discover the courage already inside them. I'm the author of the Camilla the Star Early Chapter Book Series, the 2025 picture book Cascarones and Easter Surprise, as well as Trolls, Loch Ness Monster, and Dia de los Muertos. My work as an author and through my work as an author and through school visits and writing workshops, I've seen firsthand how powerful stories can be, especially when children can experience them in more than one language. I'm so excited to be a part of this podcast where we celebrate bilingual books, talk with the authors, illustrators, editors, and others who create them, and share stories that bring languages, cultures, and communities together.
Thank you, Alicia. And now it is my privilege to introduce our guest for today. This is Angela Quezada Padron. Angela Quezada Padron is a Latina author-illustrator who spent her childhood writing stories and doodling on the garage walls of her New Jersey home. She was also enjoying summers visiting family in the Dominican Republic. Her stories have won a Florida SCBWI Rising Kite Award, and she's been recognized in the Tommy de Paola SCBWI Illustration Awards, as well as the Florida SCBWI Portfolio Showcase. A true Renaissance woman, Angela has excelled as an educator, curriculum developer, fine artist, musician, and novice fashion designer. She is also making great strides as the owner of Dream Jar Publishing, an independent children's book publisher. So welcome, Angela. Welcome to Bilingual Book Buddies. We are just delighted that you are here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor to be here.
All right. And now let's get on to our questions so that people get to know you better. As we mentioned, you wear many more hats than just author illustrator. Tell us a little bit about how your expertise or interest in those other areas that I mentioned may have influenced your journey toward creating children's literature.
Yes, I am definitely wear a lot of hats throughout my entire life. I have always been very creative, drawing, doing music, singing, writing throughout my entire life. I think that what's great about children's books is that it sort of brought all of my interests together in one place. I've been a teacher. I'm an educator. And of course, as an educator, we use books in the classrooms, and being able to bring in my writing, doing art, even finding ways that entertain children or even teach them something. It kind of brings everything together. It's like the one field that I feel like I could do everything. Even one of the books that I'm going to be publishing in 2028 is going to include a song that I'm writing as well. So I'm able to bring in my music for the first time to collaborate it with my, with my books. So it's super exciting about that. And I'm going to figure out a way to be able to bring in sewing and fashion designing into that too. I know that I am working on a picture book right now about a character that does sew. So I'm bringing in my love for that as well.
That
Wow.
sounds great. Thank
Amazing.
you.
I feel like you're a twin soul to me. I have very similar interests as you, including sewing.
Ah, good.
Now
Good, good,
I'm not
good.
in the songwriting area as well yet. I play the guitar, and I'm
Mhm.
teaching myself to play the keyboard and learn music and so forth. So hopefully someday I can compose too. That'll be nice.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
Have you played all your life? Hmm.
I did, I've dabbled a little bit in instruments here and there. I learned how to read music very young. Pretty much when my older sister Maria, when she learned to play guitar, I wanted to play guitar. She learned flute. I wanted to take her flute when she wasn't looking, and I tried it out. But my main instrument was really the saxophone
Oh,
from a
wow.
childhood, and I still have my saxophone. But I am very rusty on the guitar and the piano. Uh, so I do have to pick that up, but I feel like it's in there. I feel like it's
Mhm.
just an old computer sitting, the data sitting in there. I just have to get some time to practice it. But yeah, so I've been playing, yeah, since I was very young, and I love it. I love music just as pretty much as I love art, so and
That's
writing.
pretty cool. Yeah, me too. I did it as a kid, but yeah, not as much as I wish I had. But I do have the question about now that we're talking, I mean, music is kind of like another language, so now we're talking about
Hmm.
bilingual and so forth. So what stories from your own background you feel have contributed to your decision to write bilingual and multicultural children's books?
Well, definitely, I try to infuse that as much as I can, especially in my most recent books. The one book and specifically that I have coming out with Charles Bridge called Sisters All the Time. It's based on the fact that I am a half sibling, and I have siblings of nine of us together that share a father. Three younger than me, then there's four of us together with my mom, and then there's two older than me. Um, and I was very lucky that Charles Bridge wanted to publish it in both English and Spanish. So I was able to infuse a little bit of Spanish in the English text in some of the dialogue, and then they allowed me to translate it as well. So that was really nice. And my other book, Lucia's Goals, that comes out with Lee and Low Books in just a few weeks, in April 7th. I wrote that the English version, again, sprinkled in some Spanish in the English, but I also was able to translate that book as well. So I've been very fortunate that the publishers have allowed me to give that a go, to try, because Spanish is not my native language, English is, and I actually didn't really learn Spanish a lot when I was young, only in the summers in the Dominican Republic, but I really had to kind of teach myself and take it in high school. And because my dad came from an era where he came in from the Dominican Republic, and really he thought in his mind that English only is what you need to be successful. But as we all know, that bilingualism is an asset, and it really needs to be tapped into. So I've been very fortunate in that sense that I've been able to publish bilingual books. And there in my all my stories that I've written since, I do try to include some Spanish in the dialogue, just because it's a natural thing. Um, that Spanish families, they talk like that. Even in my family, we married to someone from Cuban descent. Every once in a while we throw some Spanish out. But I'm actually the anomaly in my siblings, the four siblings with my mom and dad, because I'm the only one out of the four that speaks and reads and writes in Spanish. The others, they learn a little, they know a little tiny bit, but they are not immersed in the Dominican culture like I am more. And I'm actually also a dual citizen now. I've got my citizenship from Dominican Republic. So I'm excited about that. So I can officially say that I am both American and Dominicana at the same time.
That's wonderful,
Yeah,
especially that you made the effort on your own to try to pursue that. And I hope this inspires and gives hopes to many Latinxes that have been raised on similar circumstances
yeah,
where they're, for one reason or another, bilingualism is not nurtured so much during their childhood. But I
right.
think you go to show us that, obviously you can pursue it and you can truly go all the way to becoming a dual citizen. That's
Yes, and I just want to add too that my book that I have coming out with Erdman's books, it's called An Island Called Home, and it's based on my childhood of a young girl that lives in the States and goes to see her father's country for the first time, and she's exposed to the culture. She doesn't know the language, can't speak to her cousins, and it's very parallel to to my life in a fictional way. And then at the end, she's speaking a little bit of Spanish and kind of embracing the culture. And it really, I don't think you're ever too old to learn. I've actually been watching an older seasons of a show with Eva Longoria. She's the host, and she goes to Spain, she goes to Mexico, and I believe that in somewhere in there she talked about not learning Spanish until she was older, and she currently lives in Spain right now. And so I don't think you're ever too old to do it. It's just that you really just have to try. My father's attitude was always like, I could just put you in the Dominican Republic for 6 months and you'd come out. I said, as a kid, when am I going to go to the Dominican Republic for 6 months? It didn't make any sense to me. So I would come up to him and say, how do you say this? How do you say that? Or I had an explorer project in fifth grade. I had to write a report about one of the explorers, and I wanted to translate it into Spanish too. And so I had him show me how to do it. And even my third grade teacher let me teach Spanish to the class when I was young. So I was always wanted to connect to there, but I really had to do it almost on my own throughout my life. But that's okay, because I learned more that way.
That's all right. That's all right. Yes, you really did hone it finally. Yes, you did.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Okay, so Alicia.
Yes, your books tend to have powerful messages, especially about women who make a difference. For example, As the Seas Rise, Nicole Hernández Hammer and the Fight for Climate Justice has a tremendously interesting backstory. Tell us what inspired you to write and illustrate this book.
Yes, that was actually sort of like the groundbreaking book for me in my career, because it was the first one that featured a Latino character that a publisher picked up for me. And ever since then, I've gotten a few book deals since then. So I did really enjoy writing and illustrating that book. I had attended so I'm a member of Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, SCPWI, and I attended during COVID. They had an online nonfiction conference that I took. It was like 3 days. And they were mentioning that with picture book biographies, there weren't that many that featured Latino characters, especially Latina characters, and especially Latina characters in STEM. So when I heard that, I said, well, I'm going to go find some. And so I just started researching online. I said, there's got to be somebody. It has to be somebody, some people to research and write about. And I came across Nicole, and I said, you know what? I'm going to see if I can find her, because she's young. She's in her 40s. I said, she's still around. I contacted her through LinkedIn, and we started messaging, and we started talking, and she wound up consulting on the book throughout the whole entire process, which was kind of amazing. Fun fact, her brother is the actor Oscar Isaac, just throwing that out there. That did not come across in the book. It's just a fun fact for everybody to know that. But no, she does have an incredible story. I thought it was extremely powerful. Her immigrant story, her struggles with adapting to life in the United States, and then her just passion and her connection to nature led her to doing what she did. And that whole thread of finding your passion early in life, and like finding that connection early in life and carrying it through, and then you can pass it along to others. I think her story was super fascinating and definitely book worthy. And luckily I found an editor at Simon Schuster who felt the same way. So since then, I've written a couple of other biographies, one that's coming out actually on Tuesday, March 24th, From the Fields to the Fight, about Jessica Govea, who worked in the labor movement, fighting for union rights. And I just try to look for the lesser known people out there that have a really interesting story to tell.
Well, that's what brings lesser known people to the fore and actually makes them better known people. And so we're all able to benefit from what they have to say and what they have done.
Right.
There's plenty of biographies about very famous people, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you find out that people who have done wonderful things and that we can all learn from, and I think in children's books especially, we have a tendency to bring that out, and it's a kudos for children's authors. And so if it's a Latina in STEM, it's particularly important to bring that out. So that's great. Okay,
No, definitely.
very good.
Thank you.
Now, you have several books being published in 2026 now.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned already one. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about them?
Yeah, so as I mentioned on March 24th, From the Fields to the Fight is coming out. It's this one right here. It's a picture book biography about Jessica Govea Thorbourne. She was a farm worker as a child in the fields in California, and her entire life she just felt a need to speak out. Her father was an organizer, and she learned at a young age to organize for justice. And she left college early to join the union and protested. And her biggest accomplishment there was being part of the grape boycott in Canada. So she was pivotal in getting the grape growers, to sign the first contract with the union. So she's not very well known, but she definitely had a big impact on that movement. So that comes out first. And then I have Lucia's Goals, which is right here. That comes out with Lee and Low. Now, a fun fact about that actually was a nonfiction book first. That was actually a picture book biography about a soccer player. But for one reason or another, we had to change it, and it got delayed a couple of years in order to change it. And we wound up writing a fictional story that had similar context about a girl who wants to play soccer, but in her hometown, there's not a team for girls. And so she has to play with the boys. And so she cuts her hair short. She changes her name for the moment for a little while so that she can play with the boys, and she dominates on the field. But her ultimate goal is to play on a female team, a women's team, and to make sure that there's fairness across the board. So it does have a sort of a thread through with As the Seas Rise and From the Fields, and this notion of social justice, right? It's a fictional book, but it has a lot of messages in there about fairness and about gender stereotypes, as well as gender inequality that occurs, especially in sports. And then now you don't have the cover for my Sisters All the Time book, because that cover actually just was revealed a few weeks ago. And I don't even have author copies yet, but I do have a little, like a printout of the cover. And that's the fictional book that I explained about the half siblings. And that one is interesting because that one, I'll just tell a real quick story. Again, it was an SCBWI conference in 2015. I was at the New Jersey conference, and I had a story critiqued. It was called Half Laughs, about two sisters who love to spend time together, but they can't spend all the time together because they're half siblings. And an editor at Charles Bridge at the time, Alex McKenzie, she read it and she gave me some feedback, and nothing ever came of it. And about 2 years ago, my agent said, hey, Charles Bridge is looking for books in STEM. They have this new program called STEM Works that's through the Fresno public schools. And she said, do you have anything? And I said, well, I have a few stories, but I have this story that I could maybe turn into STEM. I could probably add something to it. And lo and behold, the editor reading it was Alex McKenzie. And she said, oh, I remember this story that I critiqued from Angela back in 2015. And I said, that can't be possible. How can that be? And I keep all my critique papers, so I looked through them all. I said, sure enough, there is the critique she gave me. And yeah, so we went back and forth. She helped me change the title to Sisters All the Time. And we put a STEM angle on it about the girls have to estimate what they can do in the time that they have left to spend for a particular day. So it's a combination of including STEM, but also that family connection of, like, we're sisters no matter where we are, even if we don't live together all the time. So I was able to put that same sentiment from the original version in the story, just adding the math times. And then my last book is with Erdman's. As I said, it's An Island Called Home, but that one probably won't be coming out until 2027 because I'm still working on the art for that one. But yeah, so I have a lot going on, a lot going on. But I'm really excited about those books.
And you had this book. You did the art in this book, which is
I did
very nice.
Yes, that book is actually, it's still going. That's from 2014, and it still gets sold because of the notion of, when it's about, basically it's a child-friendly way of talking about that if anybody is abusing you, if you're a child and anyone's abusing you, then to make sure that you're able to talk about it with a parent or with a teacher. So yes, that was actually, I think, my first book that I did, my first trade book that I did. So thank you so much.
And it's actually, I just wanted Oh, no, I just wanted to point out that, well, the author is Jill Staniszewski, is that correct? Or
Yes, yes.
Staniszewski. And
Starashevsky,
I
yeah.
just want, and I wanted to point out that not only is it a very nice story, but it is a great book for teachers,
Yeah,
counselors, people who work in the field of possible child abuse. And
yes.
they have it has suggestions in the back. It
Hmm.
has things that adults can do, and even information on where to find help, which I mean, the book was published a little while back, and I'm sure that has been updated, but it's still very
Yes.
good. And it's in English and Spanish, both languages on the same page. And
Yes.
I
Now,
like
originally it was only English, and then about 5 years ago or so, they mailed me copies of the Spanish, the bilingual version of it, which was really great. When I saw that, I was really excited that they're producing both. Yeah.
it is very nice, and I like the fact that they did the Spanish and the English in just a little bit different ink color, so
Hmm.
that right away you can tell it's a very well done book and it's a very worthwhile book.
Thank you.
But I love these other books that you have done and that you're working on, and I just can't wait to see them.
Thank you
I
Thank you.
so
read
much.
that one. I read that one as well, and I don't have it with me anymore right now. But I it really got my attention. The author, uh, the notes that you have for parents in the back. I think those are
Hmm.
really good, nice, friendly ways to have him talk about and create these safe spaces and conversations with the kids about this topic. So
Right.
kudos to you. Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Claudia, I think you have the next question.
All right. So let's turn to your creation of Dream Jar Publishing. So the name itself, as well as its mission, are fantastic. Great
Thank
idea.
you.
And you state the following in your mission. Our books capture readers' imagination to dream big, to evolve from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and to transform their thinking from what if I could to I know I can. So, can you tell our listeners a little more about the beginnings of this enterprise and what your own dreams are for this company?
Thank you so much. Yes, this was an idea I had a few years ago. I actually was thinking about starting an educational publishing company because I have a lot of experience in that. But then when I started really digging into the possibility of creating a publishing company, I said, you know what? I really think the trade type publishing, even if it's small, even if it's just a few titles a year to start, I think that's the better way to go. And I'm really glad I went this way. I had the title for Dream Jar for a while. I'm a big Roald Dahl fan. I love all of his books, and so that's the name comes from the Big Friendly Giant, the BFG. And it's all about dreams. It's the metaphor of dreams kind of encompasses the whole thing. It's my dream to do this. It's making authors' dreams come true to have their books published. But more importantly, the all the books that I'm acquiring, and I'm very picky about what I'm acquiring, um, there has to be some element of some kind of big goal or a big dream, whether it's the overall story or text or the character. So I wanted to make it so that every single book. So I'm not just publishing any sort of any picture book or middle grade novel or anything. Somewhere in the book there has to be some big goal or dream. And I wanted it because I wanted the readers to feel inspired in some way to kind of walk away from reading the book thinking that, oh, you know what, I could do that too. Or, this character did this, so I can do that too. So the first book I acquired, for example, is called Henry Waddleson's Field of Dreams. And it's about a duck born with one wing who wants to play baseball. And I read this story years ago. It's from a friend of mine, Norma Davids, and her daughter, Stacey B. Davids, and they had they were in my critique, they were in my critique group, so I've heard it and heard it and heard it. I said there's no bigger dream than that book, because number one, this duck, it's playing baseball. Normally people play with two arms, two hands, and here's a duck trying to play with just one. And it's relatable to Norma because she lost her hand in an accident as an adult, so it was inspired by her trying to live with and trying to adjust to life with only one hand, and her love for baseball. And she and I share that in common. So I'm always looking for a book where I can connect somehow, right? So baseball is a connection with me there. And this notion of, this duck's going to try to play, despite having the one wing, like he's not, he doubts himself, but then he's trying to find a way, and his sister's encouraging him to, no, you've got to try it, you've got to play. And so all the stories that I pick, whether it's nonfiction, picture book, middle grade novel, which I've acquired as well, they all have to have some kind of big dream, because I want this to be a very positive experience for the reader and for me. And within the company, which is probably not normal to do, but I'm starting right away with breaking up the company into smaller imprints, because I wanted all the books to sort of like be categorized, so that when people see this set of books, they know what it stands for, and this set of books, they know what it stands for. So on my website, on the Dream Jar website, people can read about the different imprints, and you'll see how they're categorized by sort of topic, like general sort of books, big dreaming books, to fantasy adventure type books. But even within those books, the character has to have some kind of dream or big goal. So no matter what the genre or the category of book, it's all about the dreams. Big dream big. That's my philosophy, is dream big. Because I do so many things in my life, and I've tried so many things in my life, and I've failed. And it was very hard as a child when you fail, to cope with failing, and you just say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I give up. And I had to learn as I got older to say, like, no, you don't give up. You got knocked down, you get back up, and you keep going, you keep doing it again.
Right.
And that's why I think the biggest message is for the stories that we're going to produce. That's what I'm looking for.
Well,
And
that's amazing.
just curious with a follow-up question. I know in your life you wear so many hats. So how many hats do you wear in your company?
I wear them all right now. I do. Right now it's just a one-woman show, but I do also work with freelance editors, copy editors, reviewers. I have a book designer that I've hired. So basically, I'm doing the majority of everything. I do the acquisitions, I do the developmental editing, I do the art directing, I pick the illustrator, but I am in very close collaboration with the authors. So on the books that I've acquired so far, which is obviously, as you all know, have been published, it's not normal that the author has so much input in on everything, but I really do. I check with them on everything. I find I find a group of illustrators. I let them kind of give me their input on that. With the editing, I go back to them and say, what do you think? The book designing, it's dropped in to the designer. They send me the PDF to review. I'm reviewing it with the author, because number one, they're going to find something that I'm not going to find. And number two, it's their book in the end. Even though I'm producing it, it's their book in the end. Now, at some point, there's an executive decision that has to be made if we don't agree. But we have that collaborative process on that. So yeah, right now I'm wearing all the hats, but at some point when I start having a backlist and I start getting more titles, that's going to have to change because it is definitely a lot of work, but I really do love doing it. So.
And
It sounds wonderful.
How do you do it all?
I honestly don't know. My friends ask me that all the time, and my husband does too. I have like a priority list of things I have to do, and certain things it's like, well, that could wait till tomorrow, that could wait till next week. And I'm just trying to, and it's not only this, I have also too, my son is in high school, he's graduating this year, he's going to be starting college, so helping him get through the senior year and trying to make sure I'm not too busy that I'm missing out on anything for him. So it's really kind of like I definitely have to balance. And I try to just say to myself, okay, I'm going to spend 1 hour a day on Dream Jar stuff, and some days I'll spend 2 hours a day. But I always try every single day to do something for Dream Jar while I actually am, I still work full time. Somebody's got to pay the bills, right? You have to be realistic here until the thing starts picking up. You have to keep working at this. But I do, when I do find myself kind of feeling like it's getting to be too much, I start to say, okay, this thing that I wanted to do this weekend, I don't necessarily have to do. I'm going to put that aside, and I'm just going to say, like, tell my son, like, let's just go for a walk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I need to take a break from all this, because otherwise life is just passing by too fast, and all you're doing is working, working, working. But yeah, no, I find the time for now, and so far I haven't buried myself under a blanket or anything. That
Have
might
you
be
ever
coming though in the next few weeks.
Great.
have you ever
That's
seen
great.
that motivational I've seen it several times where they take a jar and then they put water on it and then the marbles don't fit. Then they take the water out and they put the big marbles and
No,
then
I
the
haven't
small
seen that.
marble, the medium marbles and the small marbles, and then they pour the water in and
Oh, okay.
it fits around the marbles. So it's that just reminded me with your description of how you handle all your different hats. Like
Yeah,
you put the big marbles in first,
right, right.
and then you go smaller and smaller and smaller, and then
Yes.
the water is like the entertainment, the everything else that fits around
That's
the
a great metaphor. I love that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really what you have to do, because otherwise it gets I say to my husband every time, it's like I have a to-do list and I take one thing off and I'm putting two things on. And then
That's right.
I have to shift the order of things, like what's coming up due, what's the most important. The first book, Henry Waddleson, is scheduled probably to come out next March of 27, maybe early April, but we're about a year away. And actually, right before coming on here, I just got an email from the illustrator that the final art is in. So like now comes the next phase of going through that. So there's a lot of things to do, but I think, having checklists, having to-do lists, and putting calendar notices on, those are the kind of things that keep me organized. Plus, not only that, if anybody's ever interested in taking on this endeavor like I have, really just continuing to take workshops. I'm a
Yes.
member of IBPA, which is the Independent Book Publishers Association. So I'm constantly taking webinars, and I pay for consultations from people that have done
Yes.
this thing, I've started. So I'm constantly learning. I see an article in Publishers Weekly. I take that link and I put it somewhere. So I say, okay, if I ever want to refer back to this, I have the link here. So I'm constantly, as I'm doing this, I'm still learning. And I think it's because, and Sylvia, you being a school librarian, it's like we never stop learning. We just constantly want to learn. I always, always, always want to learn. So I'm always willing to teach myself
I know.
something, even if that means starting a business.
We're the perennial students, the perennial learners.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Never stop.
Absolutely.
Never
Yeah.
stop.
The day that you don't learn something is a wasted day.
That's my philosophy. Yeah. For
Yeah,
me.
constant
Yes.
constant learning. I like that as our phrase for the day. Constant
Yes.
Yes.
learning.
Constant learning.
I'm
It's funny,
fascinated with
Angela,
you.
because you actually mentioned that your first story about the one-winged duck. There
Yes.
is there is a professional baseball player. I think he's professional, that is missing a hand, or he's missing a hand.
Right.
I bet
Right.
you know about him. And
Well,
I've yeah,
yeah.
I've
Well,
watched videos. Yeah, how he
back when I
transferred.
was younger, when I was a little bit
Yeah.
younger, Jim Abbott was on the
Oh, is that
Yankees,
his
and he
name?
he actually pitched a no-hitter with one hand.
That's
And
right.
so, yes, and so that was, I was a big fan of his. And
Yeah.
actually, way even before him, there was a guy named Pete Gray who played
Oh,
like in the 30s, I think.
okay.
And he didn't have an arm. He was missing
Oh, the
almost
whole
his
art.
whole arm, and
Oh, wow.
he would throw, and then he would tuck his glove like under. Well, he would catch it, tuck the glove underneath the armpit there, and he would then throw it. And so he
Throw it.
played a few seasons. But Jim Abbott was actually a pitcher, which it
Yeah.
was incredible to me. So yeah, no,
It
it
was
was very
incredible to watch
inspiring.
him.
Yeah, so
Yes.
this story by Norma and Stacy was like, it was a no-brainer for me. They were the first ones I contacted. I said, "You guys want to be my guinea pig for this company?" I said, "Because I want to publish your book." And they were all in on it. And it will be Norma's debut, and she's, I believe, going to be turning 83 or turned 83 this year. So
Wow.
again, as I go back to the beginning when I said you're never too old,
No.
shout out to
No, you're
Norma and
right.
Stacy, and shout out to Norma for never giving up. Never give up, because you just never know when it
You
could
never
happen.
know.
So
No, you never know.
exactly.
That's a great story. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
I'm sorry.
All
This
right.
is Coco. He won't sit down, so he's my little dog that
Hi,
that
Coco. It's so
his name's
cute.
Coco Loco.
He's beautiful. He's
Yeah, he's my
beautiful.
baby.
Okay, I think I have
Okay,
the last
Alicia.
question.
Okay.
Well, before the other ones. Um, Our audience will be made up primarily of librarians, teachers, authors, and parents. What do you see as the main message or takeaway you'd like them to gain from watching this episode?
Oh, what a great question. I know there's so many books that they could choose for their library or for the home library. And I just want them to think about, you know, considering books that are diverse books, that have not necessarily, they're not didactic, they don't teach necessarily teach a lesson like right in your face, but that are just fun and interesting, and to understand that there are diverse characters that can show another side that maybe their child didn't realize, maybe something new that their child is going to be learning. Especially with the picture book biographies, these are people that are not, they're out there on the internet, Jessica and Nicole in my books, but they're not the most famous of the famous of people out there. But that doesn't mean that their actions and their stories are not important and that they're not relevant, or that it's that their child or students can't relate to something. Because with my books, I always try, no matter if it's fiction or nonfiction, to try to make it so that the reader can relate somehow, even if it's just something small. And also, too, it's something important with the biographies that both it was the same editor on both books, on the two biographies. And we wanted to make sure that the message was that like one person can make a difference, right? It can be one child making a difference, one adult making it, one action can make a difference. And we wanted it to be like that call to action, sort of inspirational message in there for the readers to not just learn about a person's life, but to learn, okay, so they did this, so maybe I could do this too, and how it's almost like a chain reaction, right? And with the fictional books, it's kind of the same way. Just to understand that whether it's a diverse character or it's when I say diverse character, I'm not necessarily just saying too that it's a Latino or Latina character, Latina character, but because I think the notion is sometimes with diverse books that it's like, oh, we're only talking about the culture, right? We're only talking about the language. But my story, like Sisters All the Time, that's about half siblings. They just happen to be Latina in the book, right? But that could relate to any pair of siblings. They don't even have to be half siblings for it to relate to them. But it could be any sibling. So just because they're Latina doesn't matter. I wanted to write that story as if like they're just everyday kids like anybody else. They just happen to call their dad Poppy instead of Dad. Or they happen to say to each other, "Vámonos," instead of like, "Let's go." But they're the same. They play games like any other kid. They miss their siblings when they go away, just like any other kid. And same thing with Lucia's goals. Like she wanted to play soccer, and so there is some Spanish in the story, and of course it's written bilingually. But can a child read that story and relate and say, you know what, I've really wanted to do something big, and people have tried to stop me, or I wanted to do it, but I couldn't find a thing to do in my town. So I just did it myself and I started it myself. And so it's that kind of message that they take away from, like, what can they take away? What can they learn from it? And how can they connect to the book? I think that's the biggest aspect I'd want people to take away.
That's wonderful. The diverse books, I think a lot of people concentrate on the diversity, and actually a good book that includes some diversity, what it actually brings out is the sameness.
Exactly.
It is what we have in common more than what we don't have in common. And that's what makes a good diverse book. That's the best lesson that a child can learn. Yes, okay, they're different in this aspect and they're different in this aspect, but look,
Right.
we are the same in many different ways. And I think that's important. I think that's very important.
Yes.
That's a great answer. Thank you, Angela. Okay, now we're going to move on to Claudia has our special feature of the evening.
Okay.
Yes, you have the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Let us know.
I thought something
she
new
thought
was
she was gonna
happening.
Caught you off guard, yes.
She was gonna play the piano or something for us tonight.
Sylvia, you got me.
You got you there.
No, so well, this does bring us to the conclusion of the official interview with you, Angela, and it's been wonderful. I'm fascinated by all the different things that you do. It's just so many interests and also productive. But before you go, we do have the rapid fire questions. These are 3 questions we ask of every guest. And let's get started. So, what's one fact about you that even your biggest fans might not know?
Well, they would know that I like to sing because I did link a recording of myself singing on my website. So I was going to say that, but I will say that I did mention, or Sylvia did mention, that I'm a novice fashion designer. I did design and sew my own wedding dress in 2005. So that did
Wow.
too. Mm-hmm. That's a whole story in itself.
Great.
Next
Okay.
podcast.
That's a whole story. We can hear it later, but I'm
Yes.
sure it's fascinating.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Angela, if others were to describe you in 1, 2, or 3 words, what would those words be?
I think the first word definitely would be nonstop, because I'm just going, going, going. You know, like I grew up in the whole Energizer Bunny commercial
Yes.
era. So they'd say, yeah, energetic and nonstop for sure. But I also think that they would say that that I'm very, I guess, caring, because I do care about other people. I do put other people's needs before mine in every aspect of my life. So I do that.
Thank you. I think that shows.
Thank you.
Okay. Our last.
Last one. What book or books have had the most impact in your life?
Oh boy, you know, I don't really read adult books. I don't think I've ever read an adult book except for the ones I've been forced to read at in high school and college. It definitely, I would say, the Eric Carle books and the Roald Dahl books. But I probably, if I had to pick one book, it would be The Story of Ferdinand. When I by
Oh,
Monroe
there you
Leaf.
go.
Yeah, that
Alicia's
one,
favorite book.
that one is just, there's something about that book, about the notion of like, take time out to smell the flowers, but be who you are. There's so many messages, and that book is so it's so classic, but it's so timely, and it has yet to be duplicated, repeated. Like it's still printed the exact same way it was before. Like, leave it alone, don't touch it. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz, just like, don't touch the
Right.
movie, just leave it alone.
Right.
Yeah, that book, to me, if I had to pick one, it would be The Story of Ferdinand for sure.
And I see that you have corduroy behind you.
Corduroy is a book
Oh,
that I
yes.
read.
Yeah,
Actually, I have Ferdinand right there.
I
there
see
Right
you are.
there.
Ferdinand.
There it is. There it is.
The three books I have are Corduroy, The Monster at the End of This Book, and The Story of Ferdinand. Those are the three, probably
There you go.
from my childhood perspective. That those are the three
Yeah.
that like really influenced me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really great. You know,
Yeah.
it's really funny that you mentioned that you have corduroy behind you, because I used to read that book aloud to the kids, and
Mhm.
mattresses do not have buttons anymore.
They don't have
So
button anymore.
no,
That's
they don't
right.
have buttons anymore. So when you read the book aloud, you have to explain that
Yes.
those buttons on that mattress, well, that's the way they were, and they look at you like, oh God, she's out of this, she's not
Well,
telling me the truth.
well, not
From
just
the
that, and just
1900s.
I think I connected to that book real quickly because she does sew the button on at the end, and
Yes,
I
she
like to
does
sew.
sew the
But
button.
that book, featured an African American girl in
Yes,
that
yes,
story. So
yes,
Don Freeman, people like Don Freeman, Ezra Jack Keach, back in the 60s or so, 50s,
yeah,
they were writing books and featuring diverse characters when
yes.
that
Very
wasn't really
progressive.
like allowed.
It
So to me,
wasn't, no.
I
Mhm.
connected to that book because I saw she was different than other kids in
She
other books I
was.
was reading. So it stood out to
Yes,
me. It stood out to me.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. It's a wonderful book.
Yes.
All right.
And I think just to close the show with one little message here, you say at the beginning of your answer, you said, "Oh, I don't read many adult books other than those that were forced to me and so forth." And it's totally okay. I found just so many children's books with wonderful, wonderful messages
Yes.
that they really can reach you at any age. So whatever it
Absolutely.
is that gets your attention, if it's a kid's book, if it is whatever it is, a novel or what, the important part
Right.
is just to find something that fills your heart with joy.
I love that. That's
Absolutely.
a wonderful way to end this, because
That's great.
you capsulated everything I should have said
Absolutely.
in that statement.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. It's wonderful. Thank you, Claudia. It's there was a book that was published, Everything I Ever Needed to Learn, I learned in kindergarten. It was
Yes.
published a few decades ago.
Yes.
My philosophy, everything I ever needed to know, I learned in a children's book.
That's
And
beautiful.
and
Yeah.
I tell the kids that. I tell the kids that. So I think we are all in agreement here that we are all children's book lovers.
Yes.
And no, I read in college too, but
Mhm.
they were fine. I mean, they were great, wonderful. But
Yes.
boy, when I discovered children's literature,
It's a
that was
whole
it
other
for me.
world.
That was
Yes,
it. It was
exactly.
wonderful. And now we have bilingual children's literature, which is a world all its own. So we're very
Yes.
happy to be able to bring these podcasts because we're exposing audiences now to people just like Angela, who are so talented and have so much to say. And it's wonderful. So thank you, Angela, for this wonderful interview.
Thank
And
you.
so we're going to say goodbye, right, Claudia,
Yes, it's time to
Alicia?
say goodbye. Thanks to our
All right.
viewers and to our listeners. Bye, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Gracias.
Thank you.